Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Warren Oree of the Arpeggio Jazz Ensemble. Welcome.
How you doing?
Doing great. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm feeling good sitting out here in the park, looking at all these colors and listening to all these sounds and just having a ball. Having a ball.
That's right. I'm so honored and happy to have this opportunity to talk with you today. Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much.
you. Thank you.
And you know what? Music is definitely a great motivating force to everyone, and creativity is what makes us all unique.
Yes. Yes.
Warren, you
hmm
definitely bring a motivating force and creativity into the world by
Oh, well,
producing,
thank you.
yeah, by
Well,
producing amazing musical sounds with your upright bass fiddle,
hmm
known all
yeah.
around the tri-state area of Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, and internationally.
It's a nice ride, baby. That's all I can say. I'm having the time of my life, and it's beautiful, and I'm fortunate to work with some good cats who help me as I create. Our creations together all come together, and it just makes for a beautiful time. And it's not always about smiling, and it's not always about tears. It's just about honesty. It's
Love
about coming from the heart, and being able to convey that message to people who are watching, listening, or even thinking about our music. We can give it to them because all we want to do is give you the honest music.
I,
That's it.
I felt that.
All right.
So
All
I'm
right.
going to ask you what first got you into music?
Well, music got into me before I got into it. I always loved music. Uh, Even when I was a young child, my aunt who raised me, when we'd walk past a music store, I would actually almost go crazy. My heart would start beating real fast. My stomach would flip flop. Just to see an instrument in the window, I was like, wow. But even then, I didn't think I'd be playing music. I didn't like take music lessons as a child or anything like that. Actually, I didn't start playing until I was 25 years old and had just finished a real well, I didn't know I was finished at the time, but I was living a crazy lifestyle, crazy, crazy, wild man in the street. And when I got to the music, it just changed everything. I met this piano player who kind of challenged me, and he challenged me in the sense of asking me if I could play any instrument, what instrument would I play? Now, I didn't have to think about that because I used to go to the clubs and watch the bass players. And to me, the bass players were the coolest cats on the bandstand. I just used to, and I'm talking about the upright bass. And I just used to watch the way they stand and they just be cool and hitting that bottom line, that boom. And I like, oh man, that. So when he asked me, I said the bass. So then he said, well, why don't you get one? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. First of all, you act like you're telling me to go down the street and get a stick of gum. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to get one, much less play it. So then he challenged me again. He said, well, I guess you don't really want to play. And I was like, whoa. But it made me think. And I went back to him and he took me to a place called DeLuca and Sons at 12th and Federal in South Philly, which is no longer there. But he took me there and I walked in that door and I saw all these basses lined up against the wall. And there was like a bunch of women and they just were calling my name. I said, oh man, look at this. And this one particular bass, she stood out. And I went over and touched her and she said, I'm yours, baby. And I said, I'm yours. And we've been together ever since. Her name is Kay. And we've been together ever since. And that was in 1973. And it's been beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Wow, sounds like you started in your 20s, so
25.
25, and
hmm
so that connection just kind of mellowed you out a little bit or just helped you flow right on into life?
Yeah, I wouldn't say mellow, but it definitely changed my course. It
That.
changed the course that I was riding in because I've always liked, risk. I've always liked taking chances and walking on the edge of a cliff. But I was doing too much on the negative side. And when the music came into my life, then I still was walking on the edge of the cliff, still taking risks, but more on the positive side, taking chances with music, taking chances. I remember people used to say, "Hey man, you can't play that or you can't do this." And I'd be like, "Why not? Why can't I? I want to." And so I would. And I never had any formal lessons. Um, the piano player who initially challenged me, he taught me music theory, like how to read music and write it, but he didn't teach me the bass. He wasn't a bass player. And I bought these books on the bass, and I would just stay up in my apartment and play and shit on them on the bass, and just I couldn't believe, baby, I couldn't believe I was doing this. It was even now, and we talking about 100 years later. Even now, when I'm playing that bass on the stage, I'm still like, "What are you actually doing this?" And people actually liking it. And I mean, it just still blows my mind, and I'm so glad that I don't take it for granted, that I'm not complacent. Somebody asked me once, they said, "Well, do you get scared before you start to perform?" And scared isn't the word, but excited. I get
Mhm.
excited. So I'm not complacent. It's not like a thing, "Oh, well, let me just do this gig. Ain't no big deal, blah, blah." No, I'm still excited. My stomach is still jumping. My heart is beating, but not out of fear, just
Mhm.
out of excitement. It's just like, going to meet somebody that you've been wanting to date for a long time and you finally get to meet them and you get excited. And so me and Kay, even though we've known each other for a long time, we still act like we're just meeting. And that's a great feeling.
All right.
Great feeling. And
Tell
for those who don't know, Kay is my bass. That's the name of my
We're going to
bass.
hear a little more about Kate, but I want to ask
Hmm.
you, where are you from and the Arpeggio Jazz Ensemble members? And would you like to share their names?
Sure. Well, I'm from Philadelphia. I was born in North Philly, raised in Southwest Philly around 49th and Woodland. And, like I said, I was on the streets, in the streets, of the streets, and loved every wild, crazy minute of it. Got kicked out of junior high school, went to a disciplinary school called Cato. And, but all of that was before music got hold of me. And once the music got me, I was in a different zone. But as far as the cats in the group, well, let me talk about some of the members who are no longer in the group, who've had some medical problems. Juju, the drummer, uh, we have been working together almost 40 years. And that's my main man, but he's got some medical issues now. So my drummer now is a guy named G. Calvin Weston. Great drummer. Never a duplicate of Juju because I'm not looking for that, but he's got that same spirit, that same courageousness, the willingness to take a chance. So he's a great drummer. And I've known Calvin for years, been to Europe with him. So I knew he was the cat. Also on saxophone, my original sax player, well, actually, I had two, Lamont King and Steve Murphy, and then Umar Rahim, who was with me for about 15 years. Then he had a medical issue and he had to stop playing. So the guy with me on sax now is a dude from North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, named Larry Price. Great, soulful player. See, he's got that down south thing in there. So not only can he play like the New York Cats or like the Northern Cats, but he gives you that down home soul as well. So you get the mixture, sort of like Cannonball Adderley did. And Larry's another guy who's courageous and takes chances, and we just blow. Our conga player, Doug Pablo Edwards, he's been with me a long time too, and we were in the streets together, as a matter of fact. And so Pablo plays anything from oatmeal boxes to $1,000 congas, and he plays them like he means it. Then there's Frank Boutre from Erie, Pennsylvania, out by Pittsburgh. He's our guitarist. And again, someone who is not afraid of the music. None of these cats are afraid of the music, and I appreciate that. The music is a part of who we are. It's not just, I believe it was Charles Mingus, the bass player, who said, music is not so much who you are, but how you live. And this is how we live, baby, through music. We'll be calling each other 2 and 3 in the morning. Hey, man, try this and try that. Check out this sound and check out that sound. And we'll do it on the phone. We'll leave messages on our voicemail. Hey, check this out. So music is who we are. It's not just a hobby. It's not just a job. It's
Mhm.
our life. It's our breath. It's our heartbeat. And that's part of our motto is the drum beat is the heartbeat. It all comes from the drum, you
Okay.
know? So, but we also supplement our sound sometime with other artists, depending on the gig. There's various vocalists that I work with. Sherry Butler is one of our premier vocalists that we work with.
Mhm.
And then we also bring in other sax players or horn players. One guy who's with us now a lot, a trumpet player, a young brother named Will Wright, great player, plays trumpet and piano and does them both very well. Again, someone who's not afraid of the music. So I am honored to be working with these cats because I tell them all the time, they make it easy. They make it easy. It's one thing to have an idea, but
Mhm.
it's another thing to have people who can bring that idea to life,
That.
who can, I can say, hey man, I'm hearing this. And they'll say, oh, you mean bop, 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 bop? I say, yeah. And they say, cool. And then they'll add a little some of their own thing to it.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a great feeling. And it's a great bunch of artists that I am so fortunate to be with and to know and to be a part of my group.
Oh, black cherry. Come here, baby. Come here, baby.
How would you describe the music that you typically create? And I'm going to also ask you, how many upright bass fiddles do you own?
Well, let me answer that one first.
All right.
I have three ladies in my house. There's Kay, there's Nora, and there's Sheba. Now, Kay is my original bass that I got back in 1973. And she's with me. That's my bottom lady. She's with me. And me and Kay have been to a lot of places, do a lot of things. Then Sheba is the young girl. Sheba's been with me actually for maybe a few years, but she just don't have the seasoning yet that Kay has. I mean, Sheba is pretty. Sheba's so pretty to look at. She's all shiny and brown and sleek and just stands in that corner with her hands on her hips. But when I grab Sheba, I say, Sheba, I dig you, baby, but Kay got that seasoning, you know? And then Dora is the latest addition, and Dora's cool. Dora's got a nice deep voice and sings with me very well, but she has to get to know me. Dora's a little skeptical of me because she sees me doing some crazy things to Kay, and she's like, "Well, I don't know if I want him to do that to me." But Kay says, "It's all right, Dora. You'll get used to it. You get used to it." So those three ladies all have their own voices. They're all different. They all have their own individual characteristics. And that's why I dig them, because I don't want carbon copies. I don't want clones. I want a person to be who they are.
That's right.
And we'll work that. You know what I mean? We'll work that out.
And tell
Yes,
me, how
indeed.
would you describe your music typically that you create?
Well, one person called it, we had a review once, and a person called it Afrocentric progressive. So I keep the African thing, not only so much what I play, but in my mind, because the Afrocentric sound to me is like a heartbeat, it's a pulse. And then I say progressive because we don't just stick to one type. We will move forward. We'll play anything from Jimi Hendrix to John Coltrane to our own music. James Brown, The Temptations, it don't matter as long as it's honest. And another woman described it once in London in an interview. She said the music was challenging but accessible. Now, to me, that was a great combination. So challenging enough, hopefully, to keep you awake, but accessible where you're not scratching your head and saying, what are they doing? So we can still come in your living room, but you ain't gonna go to sleep while we're in there.
Right. And can you tell me who are you inspired by?
um, primarily, I don't know if there's only one, but the main one is John Coltrane. And even though he's a sax player, I like his spirit. He's a very spiritual and creative person, but he went through some changes too. He was all hooked on drugs and he was doing his thing, but his music is so spiritual. See, I don't believe music to be spiritual doesn't necessarily mean it's gospel. Because believe it or not, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but all gospel music isn't spiritual. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But so John Coltrane, I say, would be the primary influence with me, just his approach to the music. And then as a bass player, there's a guy who's little known named Sam Jones who played with Cannonball, great bass player, and also Charlie Mingus, strong, solid. And again, it's not so much how they play, but it's who they are. Because Charlie didn't take no stuff. You couldn't come up to Charles Mingus and try to ramrod him, particularly the way the whole white and black thing was going back in the 40s and 50s. Mingus wasn't having it. Mingus wasn't having it. So I like that. So I would say Coltrane, Charles Mingus, Sam Jones are the top three.
All right. And again, like you said, all that uniqueness, that's what
Mm-hmm.
stand out. Can,
Right.
can you tell me what's been the best performance of your music career so far? And have you worked with any major artists?
Uh, the best, well, again, I hesitate to use words like the best because I've had a lot of great ones, a lot of great ones. But in terms of place and and response, I would say it was in Brazil. We went to Bahia, Brazil in 1992, the first time. And it was just out of this world. The people, they had signs in the street saying, "Welcome Arpeggio from Philadelphia." They had all kinds of press conferences with us and just treated us so good. We did 5 gigs, but they kept us down there like 8 or 9 days saying, "Oh, just stay at the hotel another night, have some fun." And we were having fun even while we was working, but they just gave us some days off and said, "Look, just go ahead and enjoy yourself."
They loved you
But
that much. See that?
oh, listen, and it was mutual because Brazil is so African. A lot of people don't realize the African connection to Brazil, and it really took me into some historical states of mind in terms of the whole slave trade and how that was going, and the Portuguese and the Africans. It was really quite an experience, quite an experience. So I would say Brazil was my best gig, and in terms of, I'm sorry, what was the other question you
And
asked me?
working with any major artists.
Oh, yes. Well, I have my thoughts about headliners, and I'm not knocking them, but the headliner just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Because you got some guy maybe sitting on the bench named John Jones who could blow rings around some of these people, but don't nobody know him because he wasn't seen. But anyway, the people who are called headliners, I've worked with Winton, I've worked with Donald Byrd, Norman Connors, uh, Khan Jamal, a few. But I don't sweat them like that. I mean, I think some of these cats are some great artists, but again, I've worked with some people. I'm not going to mention their names, who are supposed to be headliners, but they slimy, they snakes, they weasels, and I won't even deal with them. I don't care how famous they're supposed to be.
I
If you're a
can
weasel, I ain't gonna mess with you. You know what I mean?
dig it. Well, I want to ask you a question right now, the year
Hmm.
2020, and
Hmm.
we are right in the middle of a pandemic.
Hmm.
The world is dealing with COVID-19.
Right.
Has changed the entertainment business, the sports business, corporate business. I want to ask you, how have you been living day by day during the COVID-19 pandemic? And what is your advice to the musicians?
Well, the first thing is I haven't let fear come into my house because that's the worst thing you can do, no matter what's going on. Once fear gets hold of you, then you're immobilized, so you're not going to be able to do anything. Um, and my advice to other musicians would be the same thing: don't let fear take you over. Now, of course, these are some unprecedented times, and the advice that I would give also is to keep doing what you do. Don't let it, I mean, okay, a lot of things are shut down, but I can't let it shut me down. You know, I can't be shut down. So I'm going to still write my music, play my music if I'm just playing for myself. Uh, keep keep my three babies tuned up and playing them, and realize that there is hope. Always have hope. I don't care how bleak things are. Now I've lived the kind of life where the COVID-19 thing, I mean, as tough as this is, but I've lived the kind of life where I had COVID 21 and 22, baby, in terms of things being bad.
Yes,
But you got to keep the hope. You got to be, I say, be a warrior, not a worrier. And when you're a warrior, you're going to stand tall. You're going to come through it. And of course, I believe in the creator. To me, without Jehovah God, there is nothing. But in terms of being able to stand tall and strong, I think that's important because it creates, it's like a metaphysical thing. It creates an atmosphere. If you walk around whining and crying, and again, I'm not knocking people who are upset. I mean, we're all different. But if you walk around just saying, "Oh, woe is me," then woe is going to be you. But if you're able to say, "Look, I got to fight this. I got to stand tall." I believe in being conscious, but not unconscious.
correct.
You want to be aware of what you need to do, but you don't want to be standing in a corner, frozen in a ball of fear, because that ain't gonna help nobody. So I
No,
believe in hope. And there's this guy, this commercial that comes on the NFL channel with my man. I think it's Deion Sanders is his name, football player. He's the last person sort of like that says a piece on this commercial. And he says, "Oh, we're going to be all right. Believe me, we're going to be all right." And just the way he says it, that says it all for me. That's my attitude. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right,
yeah,
without a doubt.
we have to keep that hope and the faith there at all times.
Yes,
I think, like you're saying, for yourself and a lot of musicians,
yes.
finding that time to continue doing what you love. It could be in front of
Hmm.
one person, two people, but don't stop. Write your music
Yes.
and continue to love each day. And I know you mentioned you are writing songs
Oh,
and
yeah.
producing new music. Do you have any original material that's being recorded right now where people can link in to purchase from you for the public?
Well, the stuff that I've written recently hasn't been recorded yet. I do plan on going into the studio around December and putting out a new CD. This would be our ninth CD with me as a leader. But the latest tune that I've worked on is called Morning Flower. And the morning flower is just that, just what everything you might think a morning flower would be: sweet smelling, open, bright, wide, loving, and just beautiful to be with. And so, Morning Flower is my latest. But I think it's important to realize that with me as a man, particularly as a black man, it's important to know that I've got people looking at me. I've got six grandsons, I've got two sons, and I want to set an example for them. I want them to see that you can stand up to adversity no matter what's going on. you can stand up and be strong. Because when they see me doing it, then they're going to do it. And when they do it, it's like with my sons. My sons see me, and now I look at the way they treat their sons and the way their sons look at them. And it goes on. And that's what we have to do. We can't necessarily change the world if we don't have our house in order, you know?
Right.
So how you gonna mess with the world? Your house is in disarray. You dig? So
They lead
I
by example.
yeah, and I just think it's important, you know. And by no means does that mean I don't make mistakes and sometimes make the wrong decision because it's just part of being a human. But the point is, I refuse to give up, and because I believe in God, I believe in the impossible. Because if you believe in God, how can you not believe in the impossible? Because there's nothing that He can't do. And I'm living proof of that because people who knew me figured I'd be dead by the time I was 20, you know, and I could see where they was coming from. But I just believe there's too much. Like even today, the sun, the leaves, the trees, the smell. It's too much pleasure out here, baby, to be worrying about the negative. You dig?
Yes,
And
I can
when
dig.
you have peace, peace and pleasure are power. When you have a peaceful state of mind and you're enjoying yourself with pleasure, you are a powerful person because you're strong. Peace makes you strong. Pleasure makes you strong. And when you're all caught up in negativity, you're really weak. You're tearing up your inside, giving yourself ulcers and migraines. You know what I mean? So I love peace. I love pleasure, and I feel very strong. And I'm thankful for it. Very thankful.
And Warren, I
Hmm.
appreciate you, and you're a very talented musician,
Thank you.
and your words are very inspiring. And I want all of your fans to stay connected to you. So, can
Mm.
you please let your fans know where they can connect with you on any of the social media platforms?
Sure. Well, there's Twitter. It's Lifeline Music 2. Instagram, Lifeline Music 1. These are the number 2 and the number 1. Uh, Facebook is just Warren Oree or uh, Lifeline Music Coalition. And then there's our website for the group, which is Arpeggio, Arpeggio, jazzensemble.com. And and of course, there's the email, lifelinemusic at comcast.net. And my favorite means of communication, because I am old school, is 215-421-3688. And that's a number where if I don't answer it, I will get back to you. But I also would like people to know that wherever I'm gigging at, I just want to play honest music. And it's not about how many, it's who many. It's not, I mean, of course, we want as many people as possible to come out, but I don't get caught up in saying, oh, there's only 2 people here, so I'm not going to play as strong as I normally would. No, it doesn't matter because those 2 people might be the 2 people. That's how I went to Brazil. It was just a few people in the audience. Next thing I know, I was going to Brazil. So it's just important to give it all you have, no matter what the audience looks like or what's going on.
Right. Can you also let your fans know in public, where you're going to be playing your upcoming events?
Sure. Well, coming up very soon, this Friday, July 17th, we will be appearing at the 116th restaurant and live music venue, which is connected with the Clarion Hotel at 1111 Route 73 North. And that's in, what is that?
Mount Laurel, New Jersey.
Mount Laurel. Thank you. Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And then on August the 15th, we'll be doing an Afrocentric live jazz fashion show from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Woodmere Art Museum, 9201 Germantown Avenue in Chestnut Hill, Philadelphia. Then starting September the 11th, we'll be doing a series of jazz concerts at the Woodmere Art Museum every weekend. September the 12th, we'll be doing our 8th annual jazz festival. This is a festival that my partner Graciela, who's a big help, and we produce, and it's usually done on South Street outside of 15th to South, but because of everything that's going on, we'll be doing it inside the Club South at 600 North Broad Street. But also, we'll be streaming it live all over the world. So that guy sitting in Afghanistan, the guy sitting in Russia, the guy sitting in South Africa, they're going to be able to check it out. And that's going to be Saturday, September the 12th from 2 p.m. until midnight. I'll have 9 bands, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And, a lot of other things are coming up, and we're just trying to make them keep happening. And I also believe on August 28th, we will be back at the 116th restaurant. We will be back there August 28th. And these times for 116th restaurant, I believe we're going to do from 5 to about 7:30 p.m. So come on out and jam with us. It's important.
So, Warren, on behalf of the 116th Restaurant and Live Music Venue, I want to say thank you so much for taking out
Thank you.
time of your day to come and speak with me and the public and share your music life experience and give
Thank you.
great information about your upcoming events. We look forward to seeing you.
All right. I want to just give a shout out to my wife, Deborah, because I know it ain't easy being married to me. Whether I was a musician or an insurance man, it wouldn't matter. So I want to give her a shout out for hanging with me. And of course, to my sons and my grandsons. And I got 2 great granddaughters. So the beat goes on, baby. The beat goes on.
That's right. The beat goes on, and that's why we got to value each day of life.
That's right.
Good use of our time here because we only here for a very limited amount of time.
That's right.
I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you, baby.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yes.
All right.
And this will conclude our interview. I'm Miss Kimmy, also known as Mr. Dustgrove, MC, host for the 116th Restaurant and Live Music Venue. Thank you.